This is my first video update coming to you from Nicosia, Cyprus on this Wednesday morning. Let's talk about some news. And the big story is that Elensky is right now on a plane to Washington, D.C. That is right. They are bringing Elensky to the nation's capital, to the U.S. Capitol. Nancy Pelosi sent out letters to everyone in Congress. Mitch McConnell, he's fired up about Elensky coming to D.C. as well. Pelosi sent out letters and she said, I want everyone in Congress to be present for a very big day. Looks like Elensky might be addressing the Congress, give a big speech to everyone in Congress, and Nancy Pelosi wants to make sure that it's full, that the Congress is full, and that everyone is ready. They've got their Ukraine pins ready to go, and Elensky's going to give a big speech. I'm sure all of the mainstream media is going to cover it, and Elensky's going to get up in front of Congress, and he is going to say, Ukraine, human rights, democracy. We are fighting Russia there, so you don't have to fight Russia here in America. That's he's going to say that for sure. And then he is going to say, give me money. Give me money. Give me weapons and give me money. That's exactly what he's going to say. And, people are going to clap, and AOC is going to be clapping and crying. And Adam Kinzinger, he's going to be crying. People who don't know who Adam Kinzinger is, he's a U.S. Congressman, not running for re-election because he knew he was going to lose. So he's bowing out in a couple of weeks. But he's like he's like a soy boy neocon. That's the best way I can describe Kissinger. He's like a war hawk, warmonger, but he's very emotional. He's always crying. Whenever he speaks, he cries. So I'm sure he's going to be there. And he was the one that was, he was the guy that retweeted the Ghost of Kiev story. He made the Ghost of Kiev story go viral because he actually believed it. That's Adam Kinzinger. Anyway, he's going to be, and he's my clown world today. That's why I bring him up. He's going to be there crying as well. And it's going to be a real big emotional hug fest speech to Congress, if Elensky is going to be speaking to Congress. But that's how it looks because Pelosi sent a letter to everyone, and she's prepping everybody. McConnell, he said providing assistance for Ukrainians to defeat the Russians is the number one priority for the United States right now, according to most Republicans. That's it. Everyone in America, your number one priority, not the border, not inflation, not the cost of living, not the quality of life, not health care, not education, not crime. The most important thing, according to Mitch McConnell, is Ukraine. All right. Okay, if he says so. The White House, they're saying that Elensky's trip to Washington is a signal to Putin. The United States is going to show their support to Kiev for as long as it takes. For as long as it takes. So that's the story. That's the big story, is Elensky goes to D.C. That's okay. So the media, all of that, they do really well. The deep state, the D.C. insiders, they're going to do the whole media spin. Congress, they're going to do it super well. CNN's going to cover it. MSNBC, they've got that down. So they're going to make this look like it's a triumphant trip, right? Elensky going to the U.S. But the way I see it is behind the scenes, this is not good for Elensky. This is just my opinion. This is kind of like the bad student being called into the principal's office. I mean, they're calling Elensky to D.C., and when all the fanfare and the speeches and all of that stuff is done, and he's going to ask for more money. There's 45 billion that needs to get approved before the new Congress is in session, so they want to get that through. I'm sure they'll get the 45 billion as well approved, so everyone is going to make one last big payday. They're going to get one last big payday of 45 billion, so they'll get that through. But outside of all of that, the money, the fanfare, it's Elensky being called to the belly of the beast, to the deep states, and to the neocons. They're calling their boy home, and they're going to sit him down, and I think they're going to tell him, look, you better shape up. You better shape up. That's what they're going to tell him. You better keep the war going. You better deliver us a couple of wins so we can put a media spin on it. And we see that you're panicking. We see that you're kind of losing your mind. You're giving very strange interviews. You know, we've got this Zaluzhny guy. He's ready and waiting. So, Elensky, you better deliver the goods that we've put you in the position for. That's what the neocons are going to tell him. This is not a good sign. I mean, they're going to spin it like this is a great sign because Zelensky's going to talk, you know, Putin a dictator. We're fighting for all of America. Ukraine is fighting for all of America. Give us money, give us weapons, and all of these things. All the theatrics and all this stuff. All of that aside, this is not a good thing for Elensky. No one ever wants to get called into the principal's office. No one ever wants the boss in an office building, the boss to say, come into my office. We got to talk. That's what's happening here. That is exactly what's happening. So it's going to be a big media misinformation day. But behind the scenes, my thinking is that this is a terrible sign for Elensky, for Ukraine. And when you have statements like this from the White House saying that we're bringing Elensky to D.C. to show that we support him for as long as it takes, just invert that. Invert that. We are bringing our puppet to D.C. because we're going to give him a couple of final warnings. Either you start delivering on Project Ukraine, because we're seeing what's going on in Bakhmut. We're seeing your interviews. You're kind of losing your mind. Maybe you want to stay off the you know what. Maybe you want to, stop doing that stuff, or else we've got a couple of other candidates who are ready to step in and take your place. So that's the big news there. Elensky was also in Bakhmut, allegedly. Allegedly, he was in Bakhmut the other day as well. Now, I don't know if he was there or not. There are outlets that are saying he was there to the front lines to see the troops. There are other rumors and other outlets saying he was not there. This is complete fiction. This was all staged. Who knows? Impossible to tell. But Elensky going to Bakhmut or staging an appearance in Bakhmut is not a good sign as well. It shows that, first it shows that Bakhmut is without a doubt the most important battle in this war. Once again, when the collective West mainstream media says Bakhmut is not that significant, that's what they've been telling us. For the past 2 months, they're saying Bakhmut is not significant. The fact that Elensky was there on the front lines, or they set up an Elensky appearance that he was in Bakhmut. The fact that they're doing all of this, that they're going through all this trouble, is proof that Bakhmut, once again, is the most important battle. Probably the most important battle of this conflict. One of the top 3 important battles, without a doubt. So that's the first thing. The other thing is that Elensky going to Bakhmut, or pretending to go to Bakhmut, I have to say that, going to Bakhmut or pretending to go to Bakhmut, it just shows that Ukraine is, they've gotten the orders to just continue to send soldiers and reinforcements, resources into the what has been called by the collective West mainstream media, what has been called a meat grinder. That's what that's the words they use. They call it the meat grinder. So they're going to double, triple, quadruple. They're just going to keep on pouring more and more resources into Bakhmut because they don't want to lose it. They are going to fight for it up until the very end. There are reports of trenches being built in Bakhmut. There are reports that Ukraine is getting ready to fight in the actual city, urban warfare. They're preparing for that. So, I mean, this is obviously an immensely important city. And Elensky going there is proof, or pretending to go there is proof that Ukraine is not going to give it up. They're not going to give it up. And I imagine if they lose Bakhmut, something else might be going on. If they lose Bakhmut, it's going to be it may signify a really big turn of events for this conflict, for Ukraine, for the military, for the Elensky regime. I think they're definitely afraid that if they lose Bakhmut, then a lot of dominoes may start to fall. That's why they're putting so much focus and so much emphasis on this city. And that's why they have the mainstream media trying to lie and deceive people into thinking this is not important. So you had that visit as well. Putin actually was visiting the front lines, actually. And he did this on the down low. He did this very quietly. And there were rumors that Putin visited the front lines. And Peskov, the other day, he confirmed it. He was asked a question, did Putin visit the front lines? And Peskov was like, yeah, I think he was there with Shoigu and Surovikin. But they kept it very, very quiet. And from what I understand, it was, there were rumors swirling around about the fact that Putin quietly visited the front lines to just inspect the situation. But we didn't really have confirmation until Peskov was asked about it, and he said, yeah. He said, yeah, Putin was there. So that was interesting. The Russian government, they are preparing a year-end meeting, a military meeting for kind of like a summary of the conflict and how everything is going. Shoigu, he's going to deliver a keynote speech. The military is going to report to the president, and they're going to then plan out the year ahead. This is something that's going to be taking place. So you had a Security Council meeting a couple of weeks ago. You had Putin visiting the front lines. You had Putin at the headquarters, the command headquarters with Shoigu, Surovikin. Then you had Putin going to Minsk to meet with Belarus, and now you have the year-end military defense ministry meeting to kind of sum up what has been going on in 2022, how things have gone in 2022, and what lies ahead in 2023. So you have all of this activity going on in the Kremlin. Could be a signal that something big is on the way. Maybe not. Maybe this is more routine than anything else. But a lot of activity on the side of the Kremlin as well. And before we get to the clown world story, which involves Adam Kinzinger, Macron, he came out with a statement yesterday, once again calling for security guarantees for Russia. This is the second or third time that Macron has come out with statements calling for an end to the conflict and that Russia has to be provided security guarantee. So Europe is absolutely getting very, very nervous. European leaders understand that this conflict is not working out well for them, and they got to find some sort of off-ramp, because if this continues, their power is in jeopardy, and they don't want to lose their seats. If there's one thing that these EU leaders fear the most, it's losing their power, losing their position. So Macron, he is once again calling for security guarantees. Of course, when the Baltic nations and Poland, they heard of Macron's second or third call for negotiations and security guarantees to be granted to Russia, they flipped out and they said, absolutely not. We cannot do this. We have to actually go harder. We actually have to ramp up the war with Russia. We need to escalate. That was the response from the Baltic nations and Poland. So there you can see the divide, that there are members in the EU that, yes, they are escalating. Yes, they're providing weapons, all of these things to Ukraine, but they're also desperately trying to find some sort of way out of this mess that they've put themselves into. But then again, you have the Baltic nations and Poland, which are just full in, neocon crazy. Let's just ramp this up all the way to World War III, nuclear Armageddon. I mean, it's crazy to say, but I mean, that's their attitude. Let's just ramp this thing up. We're actually going too soft. We're actually not escalating enough. And that's the split in Europe at the moment. Definitely the neocon escalation is definitely on the side of the Baltic nations and Poland. They're the countries that are driving the escalation of this conflict. Croatia is a country which is trying to get out of this mess. They came out with an announcement. The parliament actually voted, and they announced that they're not going to be training troops. Of course, the prime minister, from what I understand, they want to train Ukrainian troops, but the president of Croatia doesn't want to train Ukrainian troops. He said Ukraine is not our ally. He basically said we have no treaty with them. They're not our ally. We're not obligated to train Ukrainian troops. We don't want any part of this war. The parliament voted the other day, and they also said the same thing. We shouldn't be training Ukraine military. This is a dangerous escalation. But the government, which is obviously EU-centric, they want to train Ukrainian troops, and they want to escalate because that's what they're being told to do. So they're just following the EU neocon line. But the rest of the Ukraine government, they're not so hot on the rest of the Croatian government. Sorry, they're not so hot on training Ukrainian troops. Not that it would make any difference at all either. So that's a country in the EU that is trying to pull out of this mess. They want out of this. At least a significant part of the government wants out of this. Anyway, let's do our clown world and get back to Kissinger. He said, and this is according to Newsweek, that NATO could defeat Russia in 3 days. So this is from Newsweek. Kissinger reacted to a Twitter user's question: if the Russian military is so pathetic, why hasn't NATO defeated them? I hope this is a joke. NATO's war against Russia will be like a real 3-day operation, the congressman replied. Adam Kissinger, point number one, he is so unpopular that he didn't even run again for Congress because he knew he was going to lose, and lose bad. That's the first point. Point number two is this guy actually believed Ghost of Kiev. He actually believed that there was such a thing as Ghost of Kiev. Obviously, you're not dealing with a very smart individual. Point number three, He always cries. never trust a man that is always crying. That's not a good sign. That's the third point. But in all seriousness, the question is actually not a bad one. If the Russian military is so pathetic, why hasn't NATO defeated them yet? It's actually not a bad question. The question does kind of presuppose that NATO is fighting Russia. That's actually an interesting way that this question was worded. This tweet was worded because it infers that look, this is a war between NATO and Russia. So how come NATO isn't winning? What's going on here? And Kissinger doesn't really answer the question, does he? He just says, "Oh, dude, this is a joke. Come on, if NATO really wanted to fight, like if they really wanted to go hard at Russia, they would win the war in 3 days." So then the obvious reply to Kissinger's non-answer of the question is, well, why doesn't NATO, really go at it? If they can win in 3 days, and you're saying, Kissinger, that this is a dumb question, that if NATO really wanted to go after Russia, it would take them 3 days to wipe out the Russian military, why don't they do it? Why is the collective West going through an energy crisis and sanctions and emptying out their stockpiles of weapons? They're going to be sending, it's already been approved to send the Patriot missiles. That's a go. That's a green light. Why is the collective West going through all of this? Why is the European Union crumbling when it would just take 3 days for NATO to just go in there and that's it, and demolish the Russian military? After the 3-day demolition of the Russian military, you would imagine, I don't know, a 2 to 3 weeks time period before the Putin government collapsed, and finito. That would be it. So how come NATO isn't doing it? What's the holdup? If it's that easy, if you're looking at about a 2-3 week kind of thing before you get your regime change in Russia, and then you can go in there and get the energy and the oil and the gas and, crisis, energy crisis, recession, all of these things, inflation, no more. It's all been resolved. The collective West gets Russia. How come NATO doesn't do it? If it's that simple, if it's a 3-day thing. Anyway, let's hope we never get to that point. Let's hope we never see an out in the open, like a real full-on NATO-Russia conflict. That's the last thing the world needs. But anyway, that's my clown world. Adam Kissinger, in about 2-3 weeks' time, he'll be gone from Congress and he'll be given a job at MSNBC or CNN, because the Twitter files have shown us that is how the deep state works. That's how it all goes. They leave Congress and then they get a book deal or a position at a military industrial complex company, or they get a position at big tech. And that's how the system works. So Kissinger is going to get rewarded for his stupidity, his warmongering stupidity, but he will get rewarded for all of this. Maybe he'll be trust and safety manager at Facebook. maybe they'll give him that position. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. theduran.locals.com. Look for us on Rockfin as well. And the Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY. Take care.